Good morning.
Morning, Prof.
Morning, Prof.
Selamat pagi semua.
Good morning, Prof.
Oke, morning. Apa khabar semua?
Khabar baik, sir.
Oke, untuk hari ini kita ada topik dengan migration, ya, but it's more to international migration lah. But before that, I just want to share with you a few things. Number one is with regard to the midterm assessment. Ini minggu yang ke-8. Sepatutnya minggu ini kalau biasanya adalah minggu cuti mid semester. Tapi untuk semester ini ianya telah ditunda ke minggu ke-9, right? The 9 week baru kita ada midterm break, ya, mid semester break. And also for those of you who are celebrating Hari Raya Puasa, I just want to wish you happy Hari Raya Puasa to all Muslims, students, yeah, and enjoy your break. Okay, dan bagi yang lain, enjoy your break too. Bagi yang tidak celebrate Hari Raya, there's not much you can do. No visiting allowed except for close relatives, friends, ya, close relatives saja, ya, ahli keluarga saja, no friends allowed. Okay, so make sure you still follow the SOP and stay safe lah. Yeah. All right. The other thing that I want to share with you is the midterm. I mentioned this midterm assessment. It will be well, you can call it exam or you can call it assignment, but short-term assignment. It's going to be a take-home exam, and it's not very complicated, but I do expect some when you answer the questions, also some evidence lah, references and all that. That's boleh-bolehnya lah. Okay. So the exam is going to be I've not decided on the day. Bila would be the best time untuk exam, weekend ataupun weekdays?
Weekdays.
Weekdays. Okay, no problem with dengan internet accessibility lah. Okay, kalau weekdays, then I think it will be after the break lah. After the break itu minggu ke-9 nantilah. Right? So soalannya akan di upload di eLib dan saya akan maklumkan nanti, ya. Right? So it's an essay lah, essay kind of questions, bukan MCQ. Okay, so kalau macam tu saya akan tetapkan tarikh dan juga masa, ya, untuk exam nanti. Alright, so that's for the midterm assessment, ya. Alright, selain daripada itu, saya tak ada lah, itu saja announcement untuk hari ini. So we go to the lecture today. Jadi untuk kuliah hari ini saya telah membuat satu recording, ya, a pre-recorded lecture, dan kita cubalah ya lihat lecture tersebut, dan kalau ada apa nama ni isu ataupun perkara yang nak dibangkitkan ya daripada kuliah tersebut, we can discuss later on. Okay, would that be okay with you? Kalau tak dengar nanti, kalau ada masalah apa nama ni suara ke tak dengar dan sebagainya, you let me know nanti ya. Okay, boleh ya. So I'm gonna stop.
Boleh.
Thank you. All right, so let's see if it is successful or not. Saya cuba dulu ya. Share. Yeah. Okay, so this is the one. Ya, you tell me later on kalau ada masalah lah, ya, dengan audio particularly ya. Okay. Right. So migration. Okay, just to check ya. Boleh dengar ke tadi?
Ada suara.
Prof.
Suara tak ada ke?
Tak dengar, sir.
Tak ada dengar. Okay, okay. Try to find out how I can do this. I know kalau video biasa saya tak tahu saya. Okay, kejap ah. Kejap. Start all over again. Okay, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot. Hello. Welcome back to our class on. Ini okay kah tadi?
Okay, Prof.
Hey, Prof.
Okay, all right, thank you. Demography. The topic that I would like to discuss today is on migration, or rather more to international migration. All right, so what are the key issues as far as migration is concerned? We will look at the nature and also the types of migration briefly, and then we will also briefly go through the process of measuring migration rates, and I will spend a little bit of time on some of the theories of international migration, but not in much detail. And then importantly is on the effects of migration or international migration, both to the country of origin and also to the country of destination or place of destination. Yeah. Now, a few definitions here. In demography, migration is defined as the movement from one political unit to another. In other words, people move from one place of residence to another where they have the intention of remaining for substantial period of time. So in other words, staying for 1 or 2 days is not considered as migration. Now, there are various ways to categorize migration. One is whether it is internal or international,
And the other way of categorizing migration is whether it is in migration or out migration. Okay, let's start with internal versus international migration. Now, when we talk about internal migration, we are looking at migration within the same country or within the same state. Yeah, so it may cross other political boundaries, boundaries between state, or boundary between counties or division. Yeah, or it could be a form of migration from rural to urban areas, or from urban to suburban areas. While as international migration, um, it's basically looking at the um, crossing of boundaries between countries. Yeah, and under international migration, you may have legal migration as well as some illegal migration. Now, when I say legal is documented, while as illegal is undocumented, and um, the illegal migration has a lot of problem, of course, you know that. And then among international migrants also we have refugees. Those are people who wants to migrate to avoid persecution at their own country. Yeah, um, seeking refuge in other countries. And then another term called asylees or asylum. These are people who have been forced out and are seeking residence in the new country. So in other words, these are people who are already out of their country, and they wanted to go to another country from where they already are.
Okay, let me clarify a little bit on this. Refugees are normally people who, for example, there is a war, peperangan berlaku dalam negara, and because of that, certain particular civilians, orang biasa, the general public, who are not involved in the fighting, but they are affected by the war, for example, and these are people who need to go out of the country, ya, untuk mengelakkan daripada terlibat ataupun caught in the crossfire, if you will. Jadi refugees ni people who are affected. Tapi asylum is a little bit different. Asylum could be people who may find they have problem with the country ataupun dengan certain leadership in the country and so on, ataupun uh, political reasons, for example. So he may seek apa nama ni permission from another country for him or her to stay or to live, yeah, in another country. So that's asylum. Okay, so continue with that.
Okay. In and out migration. In migration is sometimes known as immigration with that I. Yeah. So these are people migrating into an area. Okay. And out migration, the word that start with E, immigrants. Yeah. These are people who migrating out of an area. Yeah. For example, people who move out of Malaysia is not as known as Malaysian immigrants, while as people who move into Malaysia from some other countries are known as immigrants. Okay, all right. Now, in terms of measuring migration, we have first of all gross immigration rate. In other words, we want to measure the rate of out migration. So all we have to do is just to find out the total number of out migrants and divide that by the mid-year population and time by 1,000. I hope you still remember why we need to time by that factor 1,000. The idea is so that the number looks big. Otherwise, the number or the figure that we get will be very small, 0.00 something. Yeah. So in order to avoid that, we have to time it by 1,000. The same thing with gross immigration. Yeah. How many people, or the rate of people coming into country. So the total in migrants will divide by the mid-year population and time by 1,000. And then the third one is the crude net migration. This is to determine the net migration, whether it is positive or negative, and also the rate. Yeah. So what we do is we get the numbers for in migrants and then minus out migrants. The same thing, we divide by the mid-year population and time by 1,000. So what we will get is a gross immigration rate, yeah, minus gross immigration rate. So you can use this these two. If you have the figure for gross immigration and gross immigration, you will get the you can easily get the crude net migration rate. Okay, and then the crude net migration rate captures the effect of migration on a given population. Right, that's a good thing about that. So the total migration rate will be equal to the in migrants plus the out migrants. In other words, we want to know how many people are moving around. Yeah, those who are moving in and those who are moving out. So we divide that by the mid-year population and time by 1,000. So this will tell us actually, it will indicate to us the total number of people who moves across borders, regardless of whether they move in or whether they move out. Okay, and then for migration turnover rate, this is the way to calculate that is you get the figure for total migration rate, which you get from up here, and then divide by the crude net migration rate. That will be, and then time by 1,000. That will be the turnover rate. Okay. Right. So the higher the total number of people moving in and out, the higher will be the migration turnover rate. Okay. So this figure here, or the graph here, shows you about the effect of immigrants, emigrants, and also net migration. So what you can see is this line here indicates the number of people who come into the country, or the migrants who enter the country. Okay, over the years. All right. So, and then you have the green one, which indicates the number of people who move out of the country. So in this case, the net effect is the net migration is positive in the sense that there are more people coming into the country than there are people who move out. So in other words, the net result is increase in the population of a particular country. For example, in this case, US. I think it's quite clear. The population of the United States is very much made up of immigrants, yeah, immigrants who move into the US. Okay, the classes of migration. This is just to more or less to list all the different classes of migration. I will not go into details on this. For example, the primitive migration, forced migration, impelled migration, free migration, mass migration. These are typologies. So the intention here is, for me to put it here, is to remind us that people move because of various reasons and in different forms. That's all I wanted to share with you. Right. So, so primitive migration, for example, is in response.
Okay. If you do have any questions, comments, just let me know so we can stop and I can elaborate on that. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
To environmental conditions, usually undertaken by people at low levels of development. Yeah, in poor countries, for example. A forced migration This is where there is a compulsory transfer of group of people, usually by government, under government order. For example, people who move from an area which is occupied by a dam, by a certain big project and so on, and they have to move out to another area. Another quite similar term is called impelled migration, but it differs in that migrants retain some ability to decide whether to move or not. In other words, they have a little bit of freedom if they want to move out, or should they move, or should they stay put. Yeah. And then you have the category of free migration. This is where individual movement, mostly for economic betterment. So people are free to move, right? There's no restriction. And then another category or another class is called mass migration. And this indicate large numbers or entire communities, for example, moving en masse, yeah, en masse, in large numbers without being fully informed on an individual basis of what to expect, right? So they're moving as a group. Okay. Now there are various theories of international migration. The theories of international migration can actually conceptualize the process or causal process of how international migration is initiated and maintained or being perpetuated. So some of the theories address the issue of initiation, and other theories look at the issue of maintenance or perpetuation of migration. Okay, theory which is quite something that you know of perhaps is the push-pull theory of migration. So the push-pull theory talks about two factors. Push factors are factors which push people out of a country or a region. For example, local economic opportunity, services, infrastructure are lacking, and so on and so forth. So these may push people out of that countries. Yeah, lack of electricity, lack of communications, lack of agriculture opportunities and whatnot, or lack of industries. Yeah. Pull factors, on the other hand, are factors which are present in the destination. Yeah, for example, economic opportunities, employment opportunities, better services, infrastructure, social support, environment, so on and so forth. Yeah, so broadly constructed framework that is useful for understanding migration, but perhaps not in understanding non-migrants. So in a way, it's something that you can use to understand about those who migrate, but don't really explain why people do not migrate. Anyway, okay. Other theories you may come across, which I have a little bit of notes in the slides after this, but I will not go into details. Yeah? The neoclassical economics theory, for example, basically explain why people follow economic opportunities. In other words, where there is opportunities, economic opportunities, so people will migrate to that place or region. The new household economics theory, on the other hand, explain joint decisions are made for all family members. In other words, when somebody wants to move out from a place, yeah, from a long house, from a kampong, so on, it involves decision making. Yeah, it will involve family members, not just the person who is going to migrate. Right. So some of the factors that they need to consider, for example, job opportunities for both spouses, if applicable, yeah, for husband and wife, schooling quality for children, if by moving out they have better opportunities for the children to attend school and so on. And also tight movers and tight stayers, for example, yeah, whatever whether they have problems and so on, yeah. Other theories of migration, the dual labor market theory. This is where it explains between two different regions having what I call different labor market. Yeah, so expensive and difficult to convince native, for example, in America or in Europe, for example, to work in secondary sector. Yeah, with low pay and so on. So immigrants, people who migrate, will fill the role that does not compete with natives. So they are not competing with native because these are the jobs that the local people do not want to engage in. Yeah, I think it happened in Malaysia too. Yeah, and it happened a lot in developed countries, but also in some developing countries. As like Malaysia, it is also happening, yeah, where certain jobs local people do not engage in or do not want to participate in. And then we have the world systems theory. This is talking about the world as being divided into co-nation and free nations. Yeah, the co-nations here refers to developed countries or more advanced developing countries. Yeah, and the free these are the countries, mostly the developing or less developed countries. So what this theory says is that the peripheral nations, yeah, for example, if we talk about Singapore, could be considered as a co-developed country, and peripheral countries include Bangladesh, Myanmar, Indonesia, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so peripheral nations send migrants to core nations with whom they have the greatest contact. Yeah, so um, yeah, so to provide labor or employment. Yeah. Okay, I have a table here to show the initiation of international migration, the various theoretical approaches. Okay, I think you can look at it yourself. If you have any question later on, you can ask either through WhatsApp or email. Yeah? This is also with whom they have the various theoretical.
Let me stop here. Um, Stop the video here. Maybe I need to explain a bit here. Yeah? You see, this is all apa namanya mengikut berkenaan dengan mengapa international migration ataupun perpindahan migrasi daripada sebuah negara ke negara lain ya. So menurut approach yang pertama, for example the neoclassical, the neoclassical ni lebih meluas ataupun macro level. Jadi dia punya level of analysis adalah negara ya. Negara, not individual, ya, bukan kumpulan, tetapi level analysis adalah negara. Ya. So why does international migration begin? Adalah disebabkan oleh peluang yang ada di negara lain dibandingkan negara yang ada atau dengan negara yang lain di mana manusia akan berpindah. So assumption di sini adalah migration berlaku as a result of labor market gaps between the countries, ya, between country A and country B, ya, terdapat jurang perbezaan di antara labor market antara dua negara. Whereas the new classical new, ya, from neo itu maksudnya new lah, new classical economics. This is melihat kepada individu, ya, lebih kepada micro level. And the assumption di sini adalah the individual rational actors, ya, mereka boleh berfikir sendiri, and they will make decision whether to migrate and decide to migrate because that cost benefit calculation. Jadi mereka akan memikirkan sendiri sama ada if they migrate they will have a better life ataupun mempunyai pendapatan lebih tinggi dan sebagainya. Right? So it's up to the individual. Yeah. But it is still an economics decision, ya. It's economic decision, tapi dibuat analisisnya adalah pada individu itu sendiri. And then the new economics approach, Ini pula level analysis adalah terhadap household, bukan individu, ya, tetapi household, ya, isi rumah. So the assumption di sini adalah individual migrants, dia bukan apa nama ni decision to move ataupun to migrate adalah berkaitan dengan isi rumah itu sendiri, ya, ataupun household, ya, as a collective actor in economic survival. Jadi bukan sendiri ataupun decision made by individual, but rather through discussions as household members. Yeah, so individual migrants are influenced by household as a collective actor in economic survival. Yeah, sebuah rumah, si rumah tersebut. And then we have seen also the dual labor market tadi. This is dilihat dari segi structure-nya, internal, by the way, structural level analysis, yaitu whereby the assumptions adalah melihat kepada demands of developed, right? So the world system theory pula adalah juga structural analysis, tapi melihat kepada international, ya, in other words, between developed and less developed countries. Okay, and so actually dual it can be applied, and also the world system theory can be applied to or both applied to international situations lah. Ya, contoh tadi on the world labor market tu negara yang sudah maju ada jenis labor, ya, market, labor market yang besar, ada yang kecil, ya. So the one which is apa nama yang kerja-kerja yang biasa dilakukan oleh orang tempatan tu adalah kerja yang which pay more lah, ya, gajinya lebih lumayan, lebih tinggi dibandingkan dengan pekerjaan yang kurang diminati oleh mereka. So this less apa nama kerjaan yang di mana gajinya ataupun mungkin dari segi gaji ataupun dari segi pekerjaan itu sendiri kotor dan sebagainya kan, mungkin orang tempatan tak suka. Jadi that one is filled by immigrant. Yang menjalankan tugas tersebut ataupun pekerjaan tersebut adalah para migrant. Okay, so dalam world system theory pula it talks about the relationship between the developed and developing countries. Yeah, so people from the less developed countries tend to migrate to a country considered as the core tadi lah, where apa nama ni employment opportunities are available, right? So yeah, that's more or less berkenaan dengan some of the reasons, yeah, according to the various theories, yeah, berkenaan dengan why international migration occur or begin.
Approaches, okay, I think you can look at it yourself. If you have any question later on, you can ask either through WhatsApp or email. Yeah? This is also some explanations on the neoclassical economics, combining macro and micro. Just quickly on this, for example, the neoclassical economics theory proposed that international migration stems from international differentials, differences in wages and opportunities. So to maximize the human capital return, individuals who can make higher return to human capital in receiving countries are more likely to move internationally than others. So in other words, if they can make a better living or livelihood in another country, so people from that particular country will move out. So when the cost of migration is lower, the possibility of potential migrant to move is higher. So actually number 2, number 3 here explain the differential migration decision between individuals within the same sending country. So these are the factors that they will consider. Okay, the new economics migration, again this another proposition where they say migration decisions are not made by a selected individual actors, and we have seen earlier on, but by larger units of related people, typically families or household, not only to maximize their income but also to minimize risk and constraints. So it is it's a family decision, it is group decisions in the unit, in the household. Yeah, I've said this about dual labor market. These are the a little bit details, and I think you can read on this. And then again another dual labor market theory 2, I call it here. Um, all right. So basically, people at developed societies or developed countries face motivational group decisions
Let me
in the
go
unit,
a
in the
little
household. Yeah.
with that.
I
This one here. Um, okay. Talking about the point of departure, basically, yeah, ataupun the difference lah, yeah. How the dual labor market differs from the neoclassical and new economic study, yeah. So the point of departure sini ialah the neoclassical and the new economics analyze the micro level decisions, yeah. They analyze the macro level decision, while as the dual labor market theory argues that international migration adalah berlaku ataupun stems from intrinsic labor demand, ya, intrinsic labor demand ataupun keperluan tenaga pekerja, ya, by the industrialized country societies, ya. So there is a little bit of connection, but quite different lah. Dual labor theory ini lebih mementingkan berkenaan dengan demand for labor, while as the neoclassical new economics too is decisions made by the individuals, made by the family ataupun household. So the main difference between the neoclassical and new economics is the focus, ya, adalah on the supply of migrants, ya. So supply of migrants, ya, ataupun di mana datangnya para migran tadi lah. While as the dual labor market theory, the focus ataupun it stresses on the demand of the receiving countries. Yeah. Other connection, but there are differences between the two set of theories study. All right. Okay, we proceed. Yeah.
I've said this about dual labor market. These are the a little bit details, and I think you can read on this. And then again another dual labor market theory 2, I call it here. All right. So basically, people at developed societies or developed countries face motivational problems to enter the bottom of the job hierarchy. Yeah, so they don't want to work in the low-paid jobs, and because of status, because of the way they view, the job is a low status kind of thing, so difficult for them to move upward. Yeah, so such job vacancy creates demand for foreign workers, and that's how people from foreign countries, from developing countries, ended up filling those jobs. And then the world system theory, I talk about the peripheral and the core countries just now. So another thing to point out here is that international migration is especially likely between past colonial powers and former colonies, and this is based on observation. In other words, people who are familiar with England, for example, or UK, for example, are more likely to migrate to those countries rather than moving to other European countries and so on. Yeah, so former colonies. The reason is because of cultural reason, familiar with the culture, with the language, the investment, transportation, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and international migration has little to do with wage differences between the countries. It is more as a result of dynamics of the global economy. Now, the perpetuation of international movement, uh, I guess you can read on this. Yeah. So once international migration began, other new conditions come in to perpetuate or to encourage or to make people further migrate across time and space. That's uh, the main focus of this theory. And you can see from here some of the theories of international migration began, other new conditions come in to perpetuate.
Okay, let me continue a bit on that. Actually, I have the slides which I will upload on Elite. So I was trying to cut short the lecture more or less. Yeah. Anyway, let me explain about the perpetuation tadi. Jadi awal tadi kita telah we look at the the theories tadi kan. Some of the theories try to explain the initiation process. In other words, why people decide to move. And then the second set of theories maybe we're trying to explain the maintenance of migrations. But the perpetuation here is more like that migration will continue. In other words, yeah, perpetuation of migration space. Yeah. So so what are other factors? Yeah, other new conditions that affect that. Yeah. So even though wage differentials ataupun differences in wage, dari segi gaji, households, strategies, yeah, and also demands of labor and receiving countries, and also global market penetration may also continue to cause people to migrate. Yeah. However, there are new conditions arise to function as independent causes. So, mungkin ada sebab-sebab tertentu yang more or less menggalakkan. Yeah. So possibility is, for example, I think this is happening in our country as well as in other countries as well. Yaitu kalau ada relatives who have moved to another country, right? Who has moved earlier lah maksud saya. Yeah. So there is a tendency that other people, relatives of these people who have migrate also follow, ya akan ikut sekali, but not at the same time, tapi at later times lah. And I think that is happening in Sabah as well. It's happening in Johor Bahru, where people, I mean, talking about different states lah, where people from Sarawak, they have family, they have relatives in Johor Bahru, for example. They follow, they migrate following their their relatives who have gone there. Itu yang dimaksudkan dengan proses perpetuation tadi lah, ya, continuous movement of people tadi. Right, so different theories, of course, trace different conditions that make the migration decision or situations, independent of structure or individual factors. Jadi mungkin ada sebab-sebab tertentu lah, bagi setengah orang tu mungkin sebab yang lain, tetapi whatever it is, the conditions itu yang menyebabkan, satu condition atau keadaan yang menyebabkan migrasi itu akan berterusan,
or to encourage or to make people further migrate across time and space. That's the main focus of this theory. And you can see from here some of the theories of migration on perpetuation or maintenance or perpetuation, how to perpetuate rather, of migration. Yeah, network theory, for example, informal social connections, connect current migrant, former migrants, or potential migrant, and sending receiving countries. For example, if there are Indonesians here already, so friends from Indonesia will be able to connect with them, and so because of that connections, more migrant from Indonesia will come to Malaysia, for example, because of network. The institutional theory, for example, this is where the focus of analysis is based on organization, both legal and illegal, that support, sustain, and promote international movement. Yeah, for example, there are certain organizations which promote and also assist people in moving from one place to another. Okay. While as cumulative causations, this is looking at conditions that make subsequent migration inevitable, more likely, or easier. Yeah? What are the causes of migration? Okay, but I'm more interested in effects of international migration, interstate migration, and I want you to look into this. What I have here are some of the points. Yeah? For example, on where people will go or destination, definitely if there are people migrating to that country, so that will result in added or increased population. And also the issue of adaptation and integration. It's not that easy when you move to another country. You have to learn how to adapt. You know, you must know how to integrate. So that's another effects of international migration. Yeah, and migrants also, in migrant also pose competition for jobs actually. Yeah, so they are competing against the local people in that country. Yeah, except for the fact that, for example, in the lower rung jobs, yeah, as I have seen early on, which the local people do not want to tax, or that is okay, so they're not competing. Yeah. Also added burden to provide extra facilities. For example, because of the increasing number of people, so there is a need to provide extra facilities, housing, electricity, water supply, hospitals, schools, and so on and so forth. That will be the result of it. And then, of course, on the positive note, I think people who migrate tend to contribute towards economic growth. Yeah, or on the other hand, if you're looking at the natural resources, extra individual, extra or more population will put pressure on the natural resources. So in this case, it could be negative, but in this case, it's positive. Yeah. And then also issue of legal immigration, which can be difficult to solve. Yeah, I think a good example is in Malaysia. We are facing a lot of problem with illegal immigration, particularly during the this COVID-19 virus infection or pandemic. On the place that they live, this is the place of the country of origin. The impact could be in terms of, definitely, if a lot of people are living out the country, that will lead to depopulation or decreasing population. And then also in terms of social costs to the family, to the country as well, right? So less people are there. Maybe we talk about brain drains, for example, those who are educated and so on, migrated overseas and so on, so be less people stay or remain in the country to help to develop the country. And then in terms of economic warfare, that will help to reduce surplus labor. For example, in Indonesia, because the people are moving out of the country, so there'll be less labor surplus, yeah, in that country. So that in a way is good to the country economy. And another thing about migrant workers is that they send money back to their home country, right? So that in form remittances, yeah. And also when they work overseas in another country, they tend to develop new skills and so on, yeah. and some of them accumulate more money and so on, which they can use for investment in their own country of origin. Okay, I have here a table which I took from the internet, and looking at the effects of migration, which are categorized into economic factor, socio-economic factor, environmental factors, and so on. Yeah, the first or the second column here looks at the what happened to the source or the country of origin, and the third column here is looking at the host or the place of destination, what happened to that country. Okay, so basically that's it for this topic on migration. You can explore more on the issue of migration, but I think that's good enough for us as an introduction. So thank you very much. Hello.
Okay, so so that is the recorded, pre-recorded lecture for the topic on migration. Tapi bagi apa nama ni, for demography, kita, of course, we are more concerned about the numbers lah, bilangan manusia, what happened, apa kesannya terhadap manusia, ya, itu dari segi demografi per se. Tetapi because we are social scientists, we have to go beyond that numbers. What happened, yeah, if less people are living in a country as a result of migration, ataupun what is going to happen to the country of destination apabila lebih ramai orang pindah ke kawasan tersebut. So that is the issue that we as social scientists are also concerned about, not just the number of people, right, moving in and out of the country as well. Okay, jadi as I said, it was a very fast lecture. Tapi kalau ada soalan, saya boleh gunakan apa nama ni slide that I have here. Let me share the slide, and kalau ada soalan boleh kita you can voice it out. Yeah? So this is the the actual notes, actually the PowerPoint tadi. Yeah. Any questions or issues? Any particular section?
In and out migration. In migration.
Sorry about that. This is the same one. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
In and out migration. Now,
This is the same one. This is also pre-recorded tadi, tapi dalam PowerPoint.
Now, in terms of measuring migration, we have first of all gross.
Yep, I may have. I don't know if I'm doing. Yeah, that's right. But this is dalam bentuk PowerPoint. It's still recorded one. Tapi kalau ada yang nak ditanya, we can refer to this. Yeah. Any question or any something that you are not so sure of? Okay. For example, the crude. We use this one. I don't want to use the one with the audio. Okay. So the crude net migration rate. Crude net migration rate adalah melihat kepada the impact, ya, the number of people in a given population. Kesannya adalah kalau lebih ramai yang keluar daripada sebuah negara daripada yang masuk ke negara tersebut, kemungkinannya adalah kesannya adalah peningkatan dalam bilangan ataupun populasi negara berkenaan. Okey, contohnya kan negara kita Malaysia, saya rasa kita lebih ramai ataupun imigran yang masuk ke negara kita daripada orang kita sendiri, iaitu our own people who migrated out to another country or countries, right? So that's how it affects, effect of migration on a given population. If there are more people coming in, maka dibandingkan dengan orang yang keluar, maka the net effect to the population is there is an increase in the population as a result of migration. Tapi sebaliknya, kalau I think in Indonesia, perhaps is the other way around, ya, di mana the crude net migration adalah negative, negative in the sense that there are more Indonesians who migrate out of the country than there are people from outside of the country moving into Indonesia. Yeah, so dari segi net effect, net migration negatif, untuk Indonesia. That's my assumption. I don't have a figure to prove, but based on the number of migrant labor daripada Indonesia yang datang ke negara-negara lain, I just assume that is so. Sama juga dengan Philippines. I think Philippines is also experiencing the same issue, where there are more of them migrating out of the country than there are people who into the country. Okay, jadi net migration ini tak sama dengan total migration. Total migration itu adalah melihat kepada this one, I'm talking about the total migration rate ini. Yang ini melihat kepada the total number of people who cross the border in a way. Ya, itu cara one way of looking at it. In other words, berapa orang yang masuk dan berapa orang yang keluar, kita campurkan sekali, right? So that is the total migration rate, total migration rate, orang yang keluar masuk, in other words, in a country, dibagikan dengan dan darab dengan 1000, that is the total migration rate. Okay. Migration turnover rate pula is the total migration rate ni dibagi dengan crude net migration rate darab dengan 1000. Itu is the total turnover rate. Any questions on this? Okay, this particular one, for example, this one was looking at the effect of immigration and immigration, and its net impact lah on net migration. US ini, semua tahulah bahawa US ini merupakan sebuah negara which is made up of immigrants, orang yang masuk ke negara tersebut. Cuma bezanya adalah yang dahulu tu mungkin consider themselves as the orang lama lah, ataupun orang US sendiri. Orang yang baru masuk sekarang ini they consider as immigrant, but all of them actually, kecuali orang native, Native Americans seperti Red Indians and so on, those are the original people, right? They are original people of America, tetapi I would say more than 90% of the populations in US are migrants, mereka datang daripada negara lain. Okay. Termasuk termasuk Joe Biden, presiden sekarang, juga originnya daripada I think is from Ireland kalau tak silap saya, his parents, dan juga what do you call, the vice president, US vice president, asalnya adalah her parents, uh, maknya daripada India, bapa daripada Dominican Republic. Yeah, so the migrants. Yeah. So that's how it is in US. Jadi ini memang yang keluar daripada US itu ada, tapi tak ramai sangat. Yeah. Okay, so this one is just classes immigration. Ini is just for your information lah. Yeah, just for your information. Not quite. I mean, it does contribute to the numbers tadi, yeah, in and out, yeah, and the reasons why people go into country or go out of the country as well. This one, I think you should be familiar with the push-pull theory of migration. The push factors adalah faktor yang menolak, ya, seseorang itu ataupun group of people daripada satu tempat, ya, tersebut pergi ke tempat yang lain. So what are those factors? Factors normally these are factors which yang ada di dalam tempat tersebut, ya, sama ada for example factor lack of, ya, kurangnya opportunities adalah faktor, ya, dari segi employment, ya, kurang employment opportunities, kurang apalagi dari services, ya, perkhidmatan, infrastructure, tidak ada line telefon dan sebagainya, for example, ataupun disebabkan oleh keadaan konflik, ya, konflik yang terdapat dalam tempat tersebut yang menyebabkan mereka pindah ke tempat lain. Itu ada pushing factors. Ya. Pull factors ini adalah faktor yang ada pada tempat destinasi sebenarnya, ya, yang menarik migran untuk datang ke tempat tersebut. So quite related, could be just the opposite. Kalau ini negatif, ini positif lah, which attract people. For example, a lot of employment opportunities yang ada di satu tempat, sebuah negara, menyebabkan orang pindah ke situ. Ataupun keadaan politik yang lebih baik, contohnya, ya, menyebabkan orang suka pergi ke satu tempat tersebut. Right? Dan macam-macam lagi lah, perkhidmatan yang lebih baik, environment yang lebih baik, and so on so forth. Yeah? So push and pull factors. Push faktor dalaman, pull factors adalah faktor dalaman, faktor dalam negara yang sending country, ya, sending countries. Ya. Dan pull factors ini adalah faktor yang ada pada receiving countries. Okay. Any other things? It's going to be a short lecture today. Yeah? Probably the shortest we have had so far lah. Mbak benda ni kita pun ada pernah bincangkan tentang migration dalam kursus yang lain juga lah. Any question? Any comment?
So far, okay.
Yeah, Daniel, anything?
For me, it's quite okay lah.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Siti No Akira, thank you. So far, okay. Let me look at the chat kalau ada yang soalan-soalan.
Hello, Prof.
Ya, Muhammad Amirul.
Prof, nak tanya.
Sure.
Adakah faktor push and pull factor ni adakah disebabkan oleh faktor economics?
Mungkin. Economic one of the reasons lah. Economic, contohnya kalau ekonomi sebuah negara itu kurang baik, ya, yang menyebabkan peluang-peluang pekerjaan semakin kekurangan, right? Ataupun pendapatan di dalam negara tersebut sangat rendah ataupun peluang-peluang pekerjaan tadilah berkaitan kan. Maka mereka merasakan mungkin lebih baik pergi ke negara lain di mana ada economic opportunities-nya lebih baik daripada di negara mereka. Yeah, it does have economic.
Okay, Prof. One more question, Prof. Macam negara Kanada, adakah mereka memerlukan populasi yang banyak? Maksudnya pertambahan populasi.
Okay. Kanada memang mempunyai masalah dari segi pertumbuhan populasi. At one point dikatakan negara Kanada itu mempunyai negative growth dari segi natural increase lah ya, natural increase. Jadi untuk membantu ataupun untuk menyelamatkan oleh negara tersebut daripada kekurangan tenaga pekerja, maka mereka menggalakkan ya in-migration daripada orang luar. Tapi dia quite selective juga, tak semua orang yang mereka terima. Ya. Orang yang ada kepakaran, ada kebolehan, ada skills, ada knowledge and so on, more easily diterima oleh negara tersebut untuk pindah. I think maybe not your group. One of our colleague dulu yang pensyarah di fakulti, forgot her name, a few years ago, dia berpindah ke Kanada to get family dia lah. Dia dengan husband dia bekerja di bank dulu, bank officer, and she herself was a economics lecturer. And they move. I think they have only one child or seorang anak lah. So mereka memohon untuk pindah ke Kanada. So they got a job there lah. Yeah. So yes, Kanada memang ada masalah. Jadi the proses demografi ini kan ada yang newborn. Kalau newborn tak banyak, kematian tu tidak dapat dielakkan lah. As you get older, of course, people old age akan meninggal dunia dan sebagainya. So they need replacement ya. Jadi kalau tak ada kelahiran yang baru, maka susahlah bagi negara tersebut untuk to replace the aging population, ya, untuk mengganti kerja yang sudah tua. Ya. So that's how it is. Ya. You okay, Mirul? Ada kan? Alright. China, Lechumi?
Sir?
Yes. Any question from you?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Mak Raihan.
Yeah, it's me.
Mhm.
Saya nak tanya berkenaan macam ada tak negara yang menggalakkan migrasi daripada negara luar dan dia akan tawarkan warga negara terhadap orang bermigrasi ke negara mereka. Sebab saya pernah terbaca dulu macam salah satu negara yang buat macam tu ialah Singapura, sebab dia menggalakkan migrasi, dia menggalakkan macam migrasi, menggalakkan daripada orang luar datang ke negaranya. Dia akan memberi dia akan memberi warga negara as long orang tu dengan syarat mesti mesti ada bisnes dekat Singapura, dan bisnes tu mestilah macam bisnes yang mendatangkan keuntungan yang besar kepada mereka. Sebab saya terdengar nak memohon warga negara dekat Singapura dulu adalah sangat mudah as long you have the ada keupayaan macam itulah.
Yeah, I think so lah. I think that's quite true. Bukan saja di Singapore, but other countries, even Germany also, and some countries in Europe lah, yang mengalami masalah pertumbuhan populasi yang rendah, dan mereka memerlukan tenaga pekerja untuk industri. So Singapore itu betul lah. Memang Singapore tu masalahnya nak mengharapkan natural increase through birth agak susah because the young people in Singapore, they're not very keen on having children. Itu masalahnya. Right? So what they have now is pekerja mereka yang ada di Singapore, a lot of them are migrants. Yeah, you probably have heard this from the television dan sebagainya, laporan tersebut. So they are dependent on migrant workers ya, untuk tenaga pekerja mereka. So that's part of the reason why if Singapore have a policy that encourage people to migrate to the country, yeah, but not everybody lah. Ada syarat-syarat tertentu. If you meet the condition, you can apply and probably get accepted. Yeah. Another country, so Australia used to have that kind of policy as well, open. In fact, Australia ramai daripada penduduk Malaysia, Australia juga adalah terdiri daripada rakyat negara lain who are now citizens of Australia. Sama juga dengan New Zealand. New Zealand ni kalau kita lihat dari segi populasi ini sangat kecil. I think New Zealand has probably population about 3 million or so. Jadi sangat it's so small, ya. Yeah. So kalau nak expand dia punya industri dan sebagainya, they have to depends on whatever labor yang ada di situ dan mungkin tak cukup, ya. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people are also migrating to New Zealand as well. US itu memang satu famous lah dari dulu, right? So yes, you are quite it's true, ya. Yeah? Memang benda tu negara mempunyai populasi. Then we talk about that later on lah, ya. Towards the end semester kita akan bincang tentang polisi populasi, ya, di mana kita akan membuat analisis mengapa polisi tersebut dibuat dan apa yang akan berlaku lah, how it come about, dan polisi juga boleh berubah dan sebagainya. Right? The only country that doesn't really encourage ataupun allow people to migrate in is Japan. Japan ni satu negara yang tidak suka dengan migrants. I don't know. I think they just don't want to pollute their culture selain daripada culture orang Jepun. That's quite strange. Ini saya terbaca lah tentang case di Japan ini. Yeah? They're not open to migrants. They may have foreign labor, but they're not permanent migrants. Ya, maksudnya bukan citizens of Japan. Ya. Okay, Raihan.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
Alright. Any other questions or comment? Kalau tidak ada, kita berhenti sinilah hari ini. Right? I will upload the notes later on, yeah, both the recorded lecture dengan PowerPoint sekali lah, yeah, so that you can refer to the notes. And you can read also. There's a lot of materials on issue of migration as well. Okay. So itu saja, kalau tak ada apa-apa lagi kita berhenti di sini hari ini. So have a good break, ya. Thank you very much for your participation today.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, I'll see you again 2 weeks from now. I will on the tentang exam nanti melalui WhatsApp dan juga Elip, ya.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Bye.
Thanks, Prof.
All right.